I am Pedro Pascal.
And I'm Sigourney Weaver.
I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Dave Filoni, the President, Chief Creative Officer of Lucasfilm Limited.
And we are going to answer some of the most Googled questions about The Mandalorian and Grogu. Let's get right to it, shall we? What species is Grogu? Trick question. Grogu is of the same species that Yoda is, but George Lucas never defined that species, and so we have not either. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Agree.
Wait a minute, this is a rapid fire thing? Everybody slow down.
Yeah. Why is Grogu still a baby at 50? Does anybody know this
That's
one?
got about a lot of friends.
Different
of mine.
species.
That's it.
They just age differently.
That's right.
You seem shocked.
I'm not shocked, it's just pride.
Who trained Grogu as a Jedi?
Luke Skywalker.
I knew that too, but I wasn't given a chance. I didn't realize I needed a buzzer.
Answer a question for him. What is the most dangerous creature in The Mandalorian?
I know.
Yes?
Man.
Oh,
Yeah, arguably.
arguably true. Wow.
How do they design Mandalorian armor? So the original design of the Mandalorian armor was inspired by illustrations done by Joe Johnston years ago between episode 4 and episode 5 when they were coming up with a new villain that was originally a stormtrooper.
Super commander.
White super commander
Yeah.
armor.
Yeah.
Then that later became Boba Fett.
Correct.
And that was explored on the Christmas special.
Yes, true.
Right.
Very good.
And by the way, that was what inspired
The rifle.
your rifle with the fork at the end that zaps people, because that's something that was used in the Christmas special. We made a live action version of it, season 1. It was a lot of fun. Why did the Mandalorian save Grogu?
My answer might be different than the right answer, but it's definitely instinct.
Well, it was imminent because Werner Herzog was about to put him into something, and we didn't know what was going to happen. So I think it was absolutely instinct.
What weapons does the Mandalorian use?
Like Bond level meets Star Wars gadgetry. So the pistol, I would say, is primary,
Yeah.
but so is everything else that's on his body. Mando will use anything in the room.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him seem like a warrior, because you were doing it with a beer bottle in the film. He takes out somebody, so it's grabbing things, using everything as a weapon. But that's like a
Resourceful.
fighter. Very resourceful.
Very resourceful.
And the lasso, the lariat. What creatures does Grogu eat?
All
What
of them.
doesn't he eat? The
True.
scariest, squidgliest ones.
That's true.
Can the Mandalorian use the Force?
The Mandalorian cannot use the Force.
He doesn't have the training.
He doesn't have the
I
training.
would say he's probably very.
Can you teach the Force to anyone?
Well, the Force is
Arguably,
an
you
energy
can.
field created by all living things. The Force is in
true.
everyone, Pedro.
This is true. This is
Different
true.
people have different levels of midichlorian, which allows them easier access at times, but they cannot learn the Force without training and discipline.
Which side is the Mandalorian on?
He's on the good side.
I think he is now.
Before he would work. I mean, he was always a Mandalorian. You got to work to stay alive. You got to get paid. And so he had jobs, and his core belief system was always Mandalore. I think through his human heart that he discovered in his relationship with Grogu, he understood, the good side.
Why does the Mandalorian hate droids? In his backstory, we see flashbacks of him, his village being attacked, losing his parents, and it's not battle droids, super battle droids.
It's during the Clone War.
During the Clone Wars. So that visual is what we reinforce as to why. But
Trauma.
as part of what I enjoy about these stories that we're telling is that the character changes through having empathy and relationships, and the rebuilt IG droid that was first the one that he actually blew away to help save Grogu ends up being rebuilt by Queel, a very thoughtful and wise Ugnaught technician, and he imprints a different set of values into that droid, and that droid ends up being somebody who saves you at the end of the first season, right? When he takes the time you take your helmet off is looking at IG, and he says, no living thing could see my face, and he's like, I'm not a living thing, and he ends up sacrificing himself for you and the rest of them. And I think that changes Din Djarin's perspective. Here's another question for you. Is Din Djarin a good dad?
That's a matter of opinion.
I think he's such a good dad.
They're going on all these missions together now. These thrill adventures are side by side. which I do find part of the evolution, because he wouldn't really let Grogu be in harm's way, but it's sort of in training process now. But it's kind of rad, because it's sort of like when my dad would take me to R-rated movies.
What is a darksaber in The Mandalorian?
It is a big deal. I'll tell you that much. Take it away, Mr. Filoni.
As the first person who ever wielded it in Star Wars canon, I was at the Skywalker Ranch. Dave was up there working on the Clone Wars, which nobody even heard of yet. And I said, hey, if you ever need somebody to do a voice, I'd love to. And then I got called to play a Mandalorian. Yeah. And that storyline played out quite a bit. And then eventually I was using a vibroblade.
Yeah,
and I was fighting
a
different type of weapon. And I was fighting, it was a metal weapon that was fighting against a lightsaber. Yeah. And we had recorded everything. Mm-hmm. And then I get a phone call saying, you gotta come back in. George said, you can't have him use a vibroblade, because a vibroblade can't fight a lightsaber. Only a lightsaber can fight a lightsaber. And so they created the lore around the darksaber, which the Mandalorians got from an ancient Jedi temple. Right. And it's this cool looking black with a negative sort of a negative blade with a glow around it. Who are the children of the Watch? It's a small sect of Mandalorians that really hold fast to the old ways, the old rules, and are very, very adamant about the dogma of the original creed that we describe as early Mandalorian.
Being a Mandalorian.
Are the Mandalorian and Jedi enemies?
Well, it depends on the Mandalorian, doesn't it?
I think that's probably the right answer now.
Fair answer.
One of the justifications of Mandalorian armor is that it is perfectly equipped to counteract the skills and abilities of the Jedi. So they were at war at times,
combatants
right?
At times, yeah.
Yeah. Can the Mandalorian beat Darth Vader?
Yes.
You think so?
Without question. Darth Vader's now old, and he can jump
Well, it does depend when. Because
I can't tell you how many times I've done this, and I have to wait a while.
When does the Mandalorian take off his helmet?
Well, one, it depends on the Mandalorian. There are so many different levels of belief systems. And this Mandalorian, in very, very interesting stages, I would say. One, to survive. Second, to say goodbye.
Ooh, romantic.
Yes. Third, Sigourney, would you like to tell everyone? No. Just kidding. Don't tell.
Oh, you mean, I can't tell you because it's in our movie.
Who was the only Mandalorian Jedi? I'm not sure if I agree with the premise of the question.
Well, I think they're speaking perhaps historically and not presently. Tar Vizsla would be the one that was first inducted. He was the first Mandalorian that received Jedi training.
What is the Mandalorian creed?
4 words. This is the way.
Right. But that's after you list all the things in the creed. Then you say, this is the way.
Well, we keep adding things because he says the old protect the young and the young protect the old. This is the way, so we've added that to the creed, right? You never take your helmet off. That's part of the creed. Mm-hmm.
What's the play? I didn't sign up for this.
that's in the Pedro Pascal compendium. Where did Grogu come from? First of all, the idea of some a character of that species of that age who, because Yoda was such a teacher, and to have one that's a student, because you always think of Yoda as old and wise, but to have a young one was just a compelling thing. And remember, as we're doing for television, it's like, what's a cool dynamic that has a lot of room to explore? Because you're going to tell stories over many, many chapters. Unlike a film where you want to lay the whole thing out at first, here we wanted to see what offered a certain amount of dramatic opportunity. And then the lone wolf and cub dynamic between those two characters felt like we could really do something special. Will Grogu ever speak? I heard something interesting saying, I look forward to Grogu's first word as it will immediately follow his second word.
Oh, very good.
How was the Razor Crest destroyed?
It got blown to bits right in front of me. It was horrific.
And also very confusing as to why we have another one now. Why is Beskar important to Mandalorians?
From a character's point of view, it is our skin. And it is our currency, our value.
It is Mandalorian steel, and it has certain qualities in its purest form. It can deflect lightsabers. How much of the show is practical versus CGI?
My short version is a lot more than you think, and a lot more that I get to be around physically, and I was always mostly impressed by the practical settings and practical effects that are a part of shooting.
There was always a mixture. Even when we're using the volume, we would have sometimes a digital layer, a built-in game engine in the background that moved. Then you'd have a practical layer that we'd build. Sometimes we would scan a practical layer to put in there. But in the film, we had the time and we had a studio lot and sound stages to build sets of the scale that I grew up with like Dagobah or the pit or the arena where we fight. Those were all practical sets that we built. We went on practical locations as well. But there's usually digital elements worked into it. But when we use digital, it's because it's something we could achieve no other way.
Well, that's all the questions. I think we couldn't have done better.